Welcome everyone to vpod.ai. I'm your host, Mike, and joining me today is our expert, Susan.
Hey everyone, it's great to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. And real quick, before we jump in, you can sponsor this podcast for just $25. Your message will be featured across major platforms like Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and more. If you're interested, visit vpod.ai to get started today.
Right, so where are we starting today?
Okay, picture this for a second. It is 1791, and Alexander Hamilton drops what is basically one of the most audacious, foundational startup blueprints in American history.
Oh, the report on manufacturers.
Exactly. But the secret that, usually gets scrubbed from polite history books is that early American innovation was incredibly messy and deliberately defiant.
Oh, completely. I mean, they were not playing nice.
No. The U.S. didn't politely cross its fingers and ask the British Empire for permission to industrialize. They actively stole foreign intellectual property.
Yeah, smuggled machinery, recruited skilled workers from abroad, all of it.
Right. They did literally whatever it took to turn this, fragile agricultural republic into an industrial powerhouse. Yeah. Because Hamilton understood this fundamental equation, right? You convert knowledge into capability, and that equals sovereignty.
Yeah, that industrial capacity wasn't just some economic metric back then. It was a matter of strategic survival.
Exactly. So today, our mission is exploring this idea of permissionless innovation. The idea that experimentation should be allowed by default unless serious harm is proven.
Which is a huge tension right now.
Yeah. We are examining that tension between building the future and waiting for institutions to approve it, and what that means for you as you navigate the modern economy.
Because if you think about it, the legal conditions they created back in Hamilton's era deliberately made industrial experimentation possible before the old world had actually consented to it.
Right.
And that pattern of acting before permission is granted, it hasn't disappeared. I mean, Hamilton's frontier was the textile mill, right?
Yeah, in New England.
Right. But today's frontier is artificial intelligence, synthetic biology, robotics, computational drug discovery. The domains change, but the question is the same.
Which is, should builders be allowed to experiment before society gets it, or do they wait for a green light from regulators?
Exactly. And the stakes driving this new frontier are massive.
I mean, just look at the capital allocation. So I was looking at this OECD data, and it shows AI firms captured 61% of global venture capital in 2025.
Wow. 61%.
Yeah, that is $258.7 billion out of a total of $427.1 billion. It's wild.
That's just a completely different scale.
And then McKinsey estimated back in 2023 that generative AI could add between $2.6 and $4.4 trillion annually across different use cases.
Trillion with a T.
Right. So these aren't just abstract numbers. That is the market signaling that this is a general purpose technology. It's altering the speed of cognitive labor.
Which is a flashing warning sign, right? Entrepreneurship is moving into spaces where the power to experiment is huge, but the consequences are, well, they're incredibly uneven. And our institutions are scrambling to figure out how to respond. It creates this massive paradox because caution is wise, obviously.
Sure. We need safeguards for nuclear energy or, autonomous weapons banking.
Exactly. But over-applied caution essentially turns into a protection system for the past.
Right. I actually like to think of it like an analogy of building a museum.
Oh, I like that.
Because, everything inside a museum is perfectly preserved, it's heavily guarded, it's totally safe, but it's completely lifeless.
It's static.
Right. You inadvertently protect incumbents from new competition. You protect the institutions from embarrassment, and you protect credentialed insiders from brilliant outsiders.
That perfectly frames Joseph Schumpeter's idea of creative destruction. Entrepreneurship is basically this mechanical process of disrupting the equilibrium of power and pricing.
Yeah, someone builds a workaround, the system shatters and reforms. But wait, let me push back on this a little bit.
Sure.
Because history is also full of people, like founders, who said, trust me, right before breaking something or causing a catastrophe.
That's fair.
So isn't the public right to demand that experts slow innovation down until we know it's 100% safe?
I mean, demanding 100% safety up front sounds incredibly responsible, right? But it actually destroys the primary mechanism we have for learning, which is failure.
Failure is learning.
Yeah, in frontier innovation, failure is vital information. There's this economist, Frederick Hayek, and he talked about dispersed knowledge.
Dispersed knowledge.
Basically, no central authority has all the answers. The knowledge is fragmented. It lives with the users, engineers, edge cases.
Right, so a failed startup is actually providing a public good almost.
Yeah.
Because they map the dead ends.
Exactly. The market absorbs that telemetry. But the permission economy tries to remove failure completely. And by doing that, it removes the learning.
Yeah, because they try to simulate the future in a committee room somewhere.
Right. And those gatekeepers, they ask the wrong question. They don't ask, is this safe enough to test? They ask, does this fit the categories we already control?
Oh, that's huge. That totally changes the incentive structure.
Completely. We see this everywhere. In healthcare, procurement favors established, clunky legacy vendors over better emerging tools just because the old software checks existing bureaucratic boxes.
Wow. Yeah. And in finance, regulation protects the legacy banks from, way more efficient fintech startups.
Same thing in defense. Procurement rules that are supposed to protect national security actually make it nearly impossible for startups to sell urgent tech to the military.
Because the timeline to get permission outlasts the startup's runway. They just run out of money.
Exactly. It's the incumbent advantage, masked as public safety. Clayton Christensen talked about this with disruptive innovation. Incumbents miss the future because it arrives wearing the wrong clothes.
Wearing the wrong clothes. Like how early PCs looked like literal toys compared to mainframes.
Or how Gen AI looked like just a fancy autocomplete until suddenly it's writing functional code and passing medical board exams.
Right, right. But here's the thing about Christensen's theory, and my question to you. If the first version of a new system always looks inferior on the old system's metrics, how do you tell the difference between a genuinely brilliant breakthrough that just looks weird and an experiment that's actually just reckless and useless?
Well, the short answer is you can't. Not on day one.
You just don't know.
Right. And since we can't tell the difference right away, we need safe environments to press these weird breakthroughs. The alternative isn't bureaucracy, it's experimental governance.
Okay, what does that actually look like?
Regulatory sandboxes.
Oh, okay.
The World Bank defines them as controlled, time-bound, live testing environments with regulatory waivers.
So a place where the normal rules are suspended temporarily and they can interact with real users, but in a confined space.
Exactly. And a recent global review identified 73 of these sandboxes across 57 jurisdictions, mostly in fintech.
Right, like in the UK.
Yeah. The UK Financial Conduct Authority has a great model. They use cohort selection and 6-month tests to reduce uncertainty for the startups.
So it's not just a free pass. It defines the blast radius.
Exactly. It turns regulation into a learning interface. It's part of what we call the frontier governance stack.
The frontier governance stack. Break that down for me.
It's 4 parts. First, permissionless ideation. You don't need a license to write code or theorize.
Yeah.
Second, sandbox experimentation. Testing with real users under waivers. Third, evidence-based scaling.
So if the data says it's safe, you get broader access.
Right. And fourth is post-market accountability. Rigorous enforcement if companies hide risks.
Okay, but let me push back on the sandbox idea for a second.
Go for it.
Does a sandbox just become a velvet rope? Like if compliance and testing require high legal sophistication and tons of capital, don't these systems just accidentally protect market concentration and favor elite insiders anyway?
That is the exact vulnerability the World Bank warns about. If the application process is too heavy, it gets captured by incumbents. It becomes innovation theater.
Right, because you need expensive lawyers just to get past the velvet rope.
Exactly. And that friction at the regulatory level perfectly mirrors the physical friction happening in the economy right now, which leads to this new frontier paradox.
Oh, right, because AI democratizes creation at the application layer. Like, you or I could open a browser and draft code or design a prototype. It feels totally permissionless.
But underneath that interface, the physical infrastructure is creating a massive bottleneck.
The substrate.
Yes, the chips, hyperscale data centers, cooling systems, the energy required, it's brutally expensive. These are the new land grants. Power is concentrating at the infrastructure layer.
So the interface gets cheaper, everyone can use it, but the physical reality is highly concentrated. And that has to affect the labor market, right?
Oh, massively. The IMF estimated in 2024 that 60% of jobs in advanced economies will be affected by AI.
60%. But it's not just automation, right? It's not a robot taking your seat at the desk and you get fired.
No, it's task rebundling. So say you're a financial analyst with 10 core tasks. AI might absorb the 6 tasks related to data gathering.
Right, the grunt work.
Yeah, but you keep the 4 tasks that require strategic interpretation. And you just do those 4 tasks across multiple clients. The market is basically splitting.
Splitting into what?
into AI amplified generalists and trust-bearing specialists.
Okay, so the AI amplified generalists, they're the ones using AI to do the coding, the design, the sales all at once. The one-person company becomes real.
The one-person company becomes very real, but the one-person institution does not.
Ah, right. Because creation is so cheap, the world is just flooded with noise.
Exactly. If anyone can spin up a corporate identity in 5 minutes, the content loses its value.
So we are moving from an era where the hardest part was building the product to an era where the hardest part is proving to the world that your product is real and accountable.
That is exactly it.
It's a shift from leverage to legitimacy.
And because of that, the scarce asset won't be content. It will be credibility. The most valuable companies of the future are going to sell trust.
Like identity authentication or data provenance.
Automated audits, exactly. In a world where anyone can fake competence, verified trust is the premium. That's where those trust-bearing specialists come in.
Wow. So to kind of sum this up for everyone listening, we basically have to stop confusing control with competence.
Yes.
And stop outsourcing permission.
You can't just wait around for some institution to tap you on the shoulder and say you're allowed to build now.
And society needs to stay open to the people actually building this stuff. There was this NBER research that found immigrants represent 16% of U.S. inventors, but they authored 23% of the patents.
That's a great stat. Openness to external talent is just central to innovation.
Right, so the old cultural mantra, move fast and break things, that doesn't really work anymore. It's outdated.
Especially when software is touching biological and physical realities now.
Exactly. So the new reframe is move fast and learn things, move fast and repair things.
Yeah. Experimentation is a privilege, and you purchase that privilege with accountability.
I love that. Well, as we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over. If the future belongs to those who act before permission arrives, but success is ultimately determined by who can be trusted. What are you doing today to build a verifiable track record of trust in an economy where anyone can fake competence?
That is the defining question right there.
It really is. Well, thank you all for joining us today on vpod.ai. Catch you next time.